case very carefully, the divorce court judge said, and I've decided to give your wife $775 a week. And he says, that's very fair, Your Honor. And every now and then I'll try to send her a few bucks myself. A doctor examined, we got a lot of doctors. A doctor examined a woman, took the husband aside and said, I don't like the looks of your wife at all. Me neither, Doc, said the husband, but she's a great cook and really good with the kids. An old man goes to the wizard to ask him if he can remove a curse he has been living with for the past 40 years. The wizard says, maybe, but you'll have to tell me the exact words that were used to put the curse on you. The old man says without hesitation, I now pronounce you man and wife. Are you warmed up enough? Well, the swimming exhibition will begin in about 10 minutes, and we'll all go out there and take a look at that. But I have a piece here that I'm going to read that's a part of my book. Yes, I am writing a book, and you all will receive invitations to come look at it soon. And it's only $285. Hanoi Hannah announced that our Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, was in Paris talking, and more talking, but said nothing about who might be listening. B-52 bombings seemed to be going on hour after hour about that time, and carpet bombing appeared to be edging closer and closer to ourselves, because we were right there in the center of Hanoi. But our people knew exactly where we were. We had received orders from our superior prisoner of war officers to play it cool, keep a low level of response to what was happening. What our president had ordered our Air Force and Navy to do was what should have been happening 8 years earlier. LBJ was a real loser, but thought he was a master planner for winning the war. President Nixon did not want to make the same mistakes, so he showed the enemy what force was all about. In his writings after the war, General Giap, the chief military guy for North Vietnam, said that the U.S. had quit too soon, as North Vietnam was getting ready to throw in a white surrender towel. In other words, unconditional surrender, which is what we really wanted in the first place. This situation could only exist when our American citizens were so tired of war that they would give away anything just to end the war. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we POWs were as antsy as could be. One day, the guards opened up all of our cells, instructed us to get into our cleanest and best POW garb and form outside in a military formation. This had never happened before. But as we gathered outside, we saw lots of cameras and TV sources. The word spread quickly that this was the announcement we were all waiting to hear. The Paris Peace Accords had been signed, and we were going to hear how we were leaving this dirty, rotten prison and when. No one was to show excitement or real interest in this staged affair. Just be calm and listen. His Excellency, the Rabbit, you may remember him, he was the Vietnamese guy who was responsible for kicking my butt so many times. He got on stage and tried to stir us up, but to no avail. We were stone-faced and were not listening. He then read from a copy of the Paris Peace Accords, but since he was speaking Gook, no one batted an eye. Our senior officers had been replaced by the most junior officers in our group, but the juniors only took orders from the American seniors, not the enemy. Finally, the Rabbit said he would now speak in English, and off he went. And he spoke very good English, by the way. The basic information was that C-141 aircraft would fly into Guillemot Airport, right outside Hanoi, over the next few weeks to pick up teams of prisoners and take them to Clark Air Base for recovery to the U.S. How many people know where Clark Air Base is? The Philippines. The Philippines. That was all we needed and wanted to know. Our butts are on the way home. When the Rabbit dismissed us, evidently they thought we might be hard to handle. But there was not a single yell or exclamation made by an American. We simply walked back to our big cells, went in, they closed the big iron gates, and then all hell tore loose as we let our pent-up feelings overflow. We had discussed for weeks how our final release would go. Some thought that a big ship full of nurses and doctors would dock close by and we would sail away for home with lots of champagne and pretty nurses. That's what the hell I was hoping for. Others envisioned a meeting place like Saigon, where airplanes would take us all to pre-sanctioned destinations. Some even guessed it would happen just like we were being briefed. I didn't really care. A goat pulling a cart would be fine with me. Just get on with it. Anoy Hannah had been reporting on the progress in Paris, but most of the commentary was on whether they should have a circular table or a rectangular one. We didn't give a damn if they even had a table. Just get us out of Hanoi and back to the good old USA. The rabbit tried to read the Accords like they were God's last will and testament, so that you, and this is in my book, the reader, could get an appreciation for this document. I will reproduce it for your intellectual satisfaction. But here is the Paris Peace Accords, according to JQ. To summarize, C-141s will fly into Guillam Airport, that's Hanoi, and pick up the groups scheduled to be flown into Clark Air Base, Philippines. No beginning date was mentioned. After initial processing there, specified groups would then be flown into Travis Air Force Base, California. That's right outside of San Francisco. Special orders were published for POWs from South Vietnam, Thailand, Germany, and other places. The designated refueling stop would be Hickam Air Force Base, Honolulu. When the rabbit finished his proclamation, we were dismissed to return to our assigned cells. Not one squeak was heard from our POW group until all were locked tightly in our cells. All hell tore loose as we were released. All the pent-up emotions that had been building up within our bodies for all the time that we had been in prison. The noise was overwhelming, but all were following orders to behave like American fighting men should behave. And so we did. Now I'd like to go away from my book stuff and tell you what happened to them. We're back in our cells. We are so happy you can imagine. It's unbelievable that we now know we're going home. The next day, 3 or 4 guards with a couple of Vietnamese officers came into the building that I was in, and by name they called out people to come out front. I was one of them. Admiral Jerry Denton was another. And they filled up about 22 slots, as I recall. And they moved us over across the camp into a building that was on the far side, so we would have no contact with the old guys, so to speak. Well, we weren't sure what that meant, except Jerry Denton was our senior guy, He was a Navy guy, as you may recall. He ended up as a senator from Alabama. Good man. And Jerry started giving us assignments. I was assigned the task of taking care of the injured. And most of that involved the recent B-52 guys who were shot down. Because that was one hell of a battle. One night, we were just sitting there when this started, and we heard this noise that we had never heard before. 300 or 400 B-52s at 30,000 feet coming into Hanoi. We didn't know what that sounded like, but we found out real quick what it sounded like. And they started bombing. They had hundreds of 750-pound bombs, and they were just decimating everything in its way. They had given us big teak boards. Everybody knows what teak is in the Orient and so forth. And these boards are about this wide and about that thick. And I kept wondering, why are they doing this? What does this mean? And that night, when the bombs started falling, that was about the first week in December of 1972. And so our ceilings started crumbling. The walls started crumbling. So we got under these boards. Thank God they had given us these boards. Our bunks came down like this, and then there was a walking area, and we stretched that teak board over to here, and we climbed underneath there. So all this stuff was landing on top of these teak boards. That went on for 10 nights. You could set your watch by the whole deal. Every night at that time, you'd get that noise that you'd never heard before. It came, and we were really happy to hear it. But we're in the middle of this thing. Those bombs are dropping right out there in the courtyard. And we know how mistakes are made. And all of a sudden, you know, we have placed ourselves in danger. But we keep saying, keep dropping those damn bombs. Keep dropping those damn bombs. And they did. The 11th night, nothing. Silence. Silence was deafening. No airplanes, no bombs. And we looked around at each other and said, God, this thing is gonna end. And so it did. And then one day, cell door open, card comes in, get in your best POW guard, which looked sloppy to start with. But we all got into it, Some of us kept our pants pressed underneath the tatami mats so that we were sort of good-looking guys, all dressed up and ready to go. So we went out and we formed like they told us to. And we had never done this before. And they put, instead of our senior guys who should have been put in charge of these people, they found the youngest, most junior kids and put them in charge of us out there on the quadrangle. And we looked around, we saw all these TV cameras, the whole world is looking at this thing. And so our senior guys told the junior officers, don't take any orders, come to me if you need instructions. So, the Vietnamese guy would tell the young fellow, and the young fellow would go over to the senior guy and say, and then the senior guy would tell him what to do. So that's how it went. It's just a game these people are playing. That was an interesting time. And Jerry Denton, instead of just telling me I'm in charge of all the injured guys, he assigned other people other jobs to do. And then we had a fitting. Ooh, a fitting. We were measured for uniforms. We were measured for shoes. You know how they measure your shoes over there? Put your foot on a piece of toilet paper and they draw a line around it. That's it. And damn, they didn't fit. And so we've got all of these things going on at the same time, and we're not sure what else is happening. We're not getting any information. We are getting some information because the other side of the camp is preparing our food for us. So they selected these big green pods that they put messages in and sit them over there after they boil them and all this stuff. We'd get all this stuff and then we'd break open the pods and get the messages out and find out what the hell was happening on that side of camp. And it was about the same that was happening with our group. Now, our clothes came in. They fit amazingly well. The shoes especially. And we had shirts, underwear, a jacket. We looked like that IBM commercial where everybody's got their briefcases and they're running down the street. That's what we looked like. But we were happy to get to that. I need to include socks and underwear. That was pretty good. I mean, this is almost civilization again. So finally, the food did increase. I mean, they were trying to whop us up from skinny guys to fat guys almost overnight. And that wasn't working. That just doesn't work. You can't do it that quick. Although some of you girls think you can. But anyhow. So we went through that routine. And then we were told to be ready the next morning at something like 6, 7 o'clock. Well, that's early. Those birds, a But they got us up. We formed. They checked us out. Our senior guys checked each of us out. Also, we wanted to look as good as we could look, leaving that God-forsaken place. Being in charge of the injured, I had to get them on the buses early. Now you say, injured. Well, what's that? Some of these injured guys had been POWs for a year or two. They were in B-52s that had been shot down and that sort of thing. And they'd been lying there in their own feces for God knows how long. And as the guy in charge of putting sulfur powder on all these things, it was a stench I will never forget. And so we get all our guys out and on the bus, and then the rest of us come out. And we walk through the entrance to the Hanoi Hilton, that all of the people who visit there go in that same door. And they're amazed at how wonderful this place is. Yeah, how wonderful it is. And you just need somebody with you to explain what the heck else was happening. So we got on buses, and we started, there were a lot of people out in the streets waving us goodbye. I can imagine they were happy that we were leaving. And so we got down to the Red River, which is the big river right there in the center of Hanoi. That's what we'd been bombing, was the Red River Bridge and all of the associated elements around it. And I looked over there. We were on pontoon deals going across the bridge, but I looked up and I saw thousands of people with yokes on their shoulders, carrying cement, bricks, and all that. Most of them were women, because they didn't have many men left. We had wiped out most of that, as they had us too. And so we drove down the road toward Keelong Airport. And as we drove into the complex, it's just sort of like any other airport entrance. You know, welcome, all that sort of thing that you see. And we stopped. And a guy got on the bus and said, we've got some problems down at the flight line. As soon as we have them worked out, we'll get underway, but everybody get out here. So we got out and went in, and they gave us a beer. I mean, my beer lasted about 2 seconds. I had a suction machine going on that was second to none, as did everybody else. And then we sat there looking at each other, waiting, like we had waited before, except this time the airplanes were right down the way. And we know if we can just get there, we'll get out of here. Finally, they put us back on the buses. We drove down, stopped, and then they had us get off the bus, and two people in a row, and you waited until your Vietnamese name was called. My Vietnamese name was Kong, like King Kong. Kong! So I stepped forward, and there sat the rabbit in my butt so many times. It put me in so much pain. I wanted to cold cock him right there. I said, well, that's good. Let's stay here a few more years. But I signed my name. And then with all of the hurt that I could muster up, I looked at the rabbit. And I said, Rabbit, you know the best thing about this is I get to leave, but you got to stay. I thought, hell, why did I say that? So there was an Air Force colonel standing over here by the flag. I ran over to him and I said, get me on this plane quickly, because I don't think the rabbit is going to like this. And that's why I don't go back to Vietnam. I don't want to meet the rabbit again. I'm going to lose that fight. I'm going to lose that fight. And so the colonel assigned me to an NCO who took me back to lead me up the ramp into the innards of this C-141. Now, I'm a fighter pilot. And, you know, these cargo airplanes don't thrill me at all. That was the most beautiful airplane I've ever seen in my life. And so I got up to the top, and here were a bunch of nurses. And they're greeting all the guys, and we're getting our first whiff of perfume. My God, I can't tell you what I just about did right there in front of them. And then we got on, and I asked, I said, where are my injured guys? And so they took me back to them, and they were well situated, and nurses were taking care of them. So I felt good about that. And then we filled up the airplane, closed up. You know, like it is at the terminal. Once they close that gate, close the door, you don't think anybody else can get on board until some late timer gets in and so forth. But yeah, we didn't have that. So we get all closed up and we start taxiing out. It was quiet. On board that airplane were lots of military brass who were on board to brief us on what was going to happen at Clark Air Base and what had happened to our country while we were gone. They were just sort of bringing us up to speed on what to expect. So we got out at the end of the runway, and we all know what the procedure is at the end of the runway. You make everything work, the ailerons and this, that, and the other, and you run those engines up, and you start checking the engine instruments to be sure that they're where they should be. And then you feel the release of brakes, and the power comes forward, and there's a lot of power on that C-141. Man, it'll push you back. It's like afterburner. And we're running down the runway, and what do you think we are all praying? God, let us get airborne. Let us get airborne. And you can tell when the airplane has enough airspeed that it releases the weight from the gears, and you feel that thing, that lift, like somebody gave you a goose, you know. And then you hear the gear come up and lock. And when you hear that, we all went ape. Unbelievable. That was the loudest airplane I I have ever been on in my life. And we are kissing each other, and hugging each other, and slapping high fives and so forth. And we are airborne. Airborne. God, we've been thinking about this for so many years. Just how that would feel. So when we get settled at an altitude, they start working the group. Guys are saying what's going to happen. You get the Clark, and the ranking guy is going to get off, Jerry Denton, and he's going to make some remarks, and then we're going to get off alphabetically. But fortunately, I'm a C guy, so I'm going to be somewhere close to the front. I didn't really check to see who else was up there, but I thought, well, my family's going to see me. So we get there. We have been told you all are going to get baseball cards that will allow you to get into any baseball game in America for the rest of your life. I mean, that's really interesting. It said something like, well, you're going to get a card down to the Silver Saddle where they have all these girls. That might have been okay. Baseball didn't quite hit. But anyhow, we knew where their heart was. And so we go down the road and we fly around the base. And my good friend Debbie was born on that base. And she knows exactly what was going on and where people were coming from. And this was February the 12th. What else do you think is happening that month? Valentine. Every kid on that island had made a Valentine card for each one of us personally. And they were there at the base to give it to us when we got off. And so we landed. That was another thing, just to hear that. Those gears hit the runway, and the brakes work, and we don't go off into the runway, we taxi around. That was a good feeling. And then we get up and we hear the announcer saying, ladies and gentlemen. They start announcing that we are there. And they announced that Jerry Denton, as a senior man, is stepping off first. And Jerry came back to me because I had been sitting by Jerry. He says, what do you think I would say? I said, Jerry, damn, if you don't know what to say after all these years, I don't know what to tell you. We got off and made just a couple of remarks and said, God bless America. Boy, do we need that now. Do we need that now? We got Democrats and we got Republicans and we got all these different people. We also got a bunch of other people. And I don't like that. I can handle the Republicans, Democrats. I can't handle Muslims. All the other stuff is put on us, particularly when they are exploding at our borders. What the hell's the matter with people? I don't want to get too political, but I do want to get some political. That bothers me. That bothers me. We better take care of that, or it's going to eat us up alive some other time, if not right now. Jerry said his remarks, and then they started down the alphabet. So-and-so, if your name was Ahab, you were in good shape. You were the next guy to be introduced. And the people who were waiting to greet us were 2, 3, 4-star generals and admirals and so forth. And most of us were old enough that we knew these people back when they were majors, colonels, and stuff like that. And I stepped up, and I had just gotten rid of my what do you call them? Your crutches. I'd had those damn crutches for 5 years. I didn't need them for all those 5 years, but I didn't want to get away from those crutches because they may help me bonk somebody on the head or whatever. And it also helped me teach my cellmate how to play the piano. Because I wrote the keyboard out on my crutches. And I taught my cellmate, who was a black guy, and he lives up here in Greensboro, Norm McDaniel, finest Christian guy I've ever had. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. If you got that, that's where you start, all you Thompson geniuses out there. You know, that's where it was. Here we go in a row to a birthday party. Dun, 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 Sandman's near, soon you will be sleeping. Man, I remember that stuff. Well, came my name, and I was limping. And everybody in Concord, North Carolina, who knew me, knew that I was limping. And my mom and sis knew I was limping. And I couldn't avoid it. But it has soon disappeared. Now I'm just sort of shuffling along. But at any rate, we came down and there was a 3-star general that I'd known when he was a colonel, and I helped him because I was aide to a 4-star general and he needed some help, and I helped him. And he was happy to see me, and I was happy to see him. So we all got on a bus and went over to the hospital. The hospital had been evacuated to clear it out because they didn't know what we were going to be, whether we were going to be idiots or where we were going to be okay. It turned out we were pretty much okay. Because we had to deal with reality on a daily basis. And that kept us sane. So we got on those buses and went over to the hospital. We're introduced to our escort officer. Now this is the guy who's going to take you back to your family in the States. Same guy, he knows everything about you, everything about your family, your bank accounts, the whole bit. He's there, you can talk to him. He's a guy of similar rank. I came out of Lieutenant Colonel. Interestingly enough, for those of you who are wondering, I was shot down as a captain. Now I'm a Lieutenant Colonel. the hell did I do? Well, as it turns out, if you were shot down, you are promoted along with your peers. And I happen to be in a good peer group. So I got promoted when those guys got promoted. So shortly after I was released, I was a full colonel. Good God, I could, a colonel? I couldn't believe that. That's the way the system worked, and I wasn't about to change it at the time. So, we were introduced to our escort officer, who was a guy, a lieutenant colonel. I remember Jack. I don't remember his last name. He took me up to the hospital room, and there was a guy from Concord. He found out I was going to be there, and he came over to say hello. I've got some pictures. I was so damn skinny, I looked like I was one of these chairs. But I got out of that recently. Then we all milled about. We found out where the dining room was, where you got a beer, where you did this, where you did that. And several of us went wandering around. And I said, hey, Evan, have you made a call home yet? He said, no. Have you? I said, no. What the hell's the matter? He says, I don't know. Why don't we find out? So we went into the where the chiefs were. And we said, guys, we need to go somewhere. And what's going on here? So within just a few moments, they said, Colonel Collins, will you follow Airman so-and-so? There's a meeting down here for you. So I went down. Here's a colonel, general, a couple of guys that looked like they were nut checkers for me. This kind of nut. And Colonel said, Quincy, we've got a letter here from your wife, and we don't understand it. Maybe you will. So he gives me the letter. The letter says, Dear Quincy, we are all very happy that you are free again. But, you know those buts? My dad told me butts can get you into a lot of trouble. This butt got me into a lot of trouble. But we're not going to live together again anymore. I've got 3 sons. So I said, well, what is it you guys don't understand about this letter? Pretty clear to me. She just don't want to live with me anymore. They said, oh yeah, that's right. So they took me over to the hospital side, like I'm mentally ill now. And they assigned a psychiatrist to me. Not just a psychiatrist, the best psychiatrist the Air Force had, and he was a black man. A Tuckasegee football player. What a guy. And we hit it off, and I said, okay, what's going on here? And he said, well, guess what you see now, when you get to Travis Air Force Base, you will get to meet your wife and your sons, and you'll be able to handle this firsthand. I said, well, that's pretty good. Because you know, fighter pilots never recognize the fact that they're ever second choice. I felt, put me in front of this woman, I will melt away whatever it is that's holding us apart, and we'll get on with life. Because I was ready. I didn't care if she'd just gotten out of bed from somebody she'd been living with and met me. If she's ready to go on, I'm ready to go on. Didn't work like that. Didn't work like that. So, I got on the telephone and I called her. It was not this lady that's sitting here. Boy, I wish it had been. Things would have been different. But anyhow, I thought that I could talk my way out of this one, like I had many other things in my life. Happier, free, ha ha ha, but no living. We're not going to be together again. She got all my money. She didn't take advantage of the savings that being POW offered families. Tax-free money. So I'm sitting there saying, this woman is just, I wasn't quite sure how the terminology would be. But at any rate, I said, okay, we got to live with what we got to live with. So we went on. Then came, the first movie I saw when I got back was, oh gracious, who's the inspector?
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers. And he had this gal, and he went to a nudist camp and kept his guitar in front of him all the time. Oh my God. Well, that was fun. And that kind of eased pain for a little bit. They gave us a bathrobe, and we got on the bus and went over to the base exchange and shopped around. I bought some things for my 3 sons, and my mother and my sister, and came back to the room. I didn't have any money, but they put it on my account. On the account, I didn't have any money. And so we made it through all that. Then we had a boarding time and so forth, and we all got on and flew to Travis Air Force Base, which is right outside of San Francisco, but we were going to land and refuel at Honolulu at Tickham Air Force Base. And we got there about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, as I recall. And we pulled up, and here were all these white lights. They were filming this like mad. And as soon as the door opened and I stepped down, I heard, Quincy! Quincy! Oh my God. Some of my old Hawaii girlfriends are here. That wasn't it. But there were a lot of my old friends who were there, including some people from Concord, North Carolina, who got the sheet of who was coming in on certain planes and so forth. And so the base commander was a fellow that I had known. He and I were captains together. He says, "Quincy, there are a lot of people here who want to say hello to you." And I said, "Yeah, but they just told us we can't get away from the group." He says, "I'll take care of that. You just come with me." So I followed him, and we went in the back and up, and here were 12 to 15 people that I knew just from sight. And they were so happy to see me. Man, did I need that. And one of them was an old girlfriend named Fanny. Now that has nothing to do with anything other than her name was Fanny. She and her husband were husbands. And they were there. A guy from Concord was there, and some other folks that I knew. And Fanny brought 2 big, huge baby bottles full of Mai Tais. So I decided I'm taking one just for me, and I'm giving the other to the guys on the airplane. So that's what we did. And so by the time we got airborne again, we're all about half snockered, ready to go. We're ready to land at Travis Air Base outside of San Francisco. So we landed. It was a pretty day. I went up front. We flew around San Francisco. God, that was beautiful. San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. And just look to that part of the world today. It's a cesspool. So we landed. And my wife could not come meet me because she had a business appointment. So I got off the airplane. And a guy that I'd known from 1955 at the Air Force Academy, he was now a general in charge of the SR-71 reconnaissance airplane stuff. I mean, this is secretive stuff. And Jerry O'Malley later became a 4-star general. He met me in an orange flight suit. And I said, "Jerry, I couldn't be happier to see you." And then another guy who was in my flight as a lieutenant, he's a 3-star. And he comes up after that, and his wife's name is Birdie Jean. I mean, how southern can you get? They just, because they had heard that my wife wasn't going to be there for me, and they wanted to show me that they cared. Wow. Gang, that's what life is all about. Showing people that you care. Not that you don't care or don't give a damn or whatever, but that you care. So after that was over, I went with my escort officer to Bachelor Officer Corps. Well, actually, it wasn't Bachelor Officers. They put us in the colonels and generals places. There were a few of us officers there. And then a guy comes in and says, "All right, we're going to bring your sons in one at a time." Okay, one at a time. That's how I have it. One at a time. And so Chip comes in. He's, what, 13 at that time, something. And he's the oldest. He's my number one guy, James QuincyCollins3. He doesn't know. Doesn't remember. Oh, that was kind of tough. But I sensed something about Chip. And I held on to that. And then the next son came, Chuck. He was 18 months younger. He didn't. And of course, the youngest didn't remember. So it's Chip, Chuck, and Courtney. None of them remembered me, but here I am. Now it's interesting. We're still trying to learn each other. To this very day, we're trying to learn each other. We talk to each other. We try to understand what they're going through. They try to understand what I'm going through. One thing that we have in common is Catherine. They love Catherine. And boy, was that a good deal. Now, when all of this was over, I headed to Montgomery. And my mother and my sister, who lived in Atlanta, met me in Montgomery. So I'm going to be in Montgomery for my interrogation. Interrogation in prison meant they're going to try to get to you and give you questions that you don't want to put answers to. But this was a little different. This was telling them everything we knew. So every name that I could recall, I gave them. So they're trying to account for all of these men during the 7.5 years that I was in. That was tough, but most important. And then they said, "Okay, we're gonna introduce you to some Air Force people that are gonna help you with your next assignment and help you maybe with your assignments from here on for the rest of your career." So some of us were shot down as young bucks, now we're old bucks. So I said, okay. So the next morning, I've got a 9 o'clock appointment with personnel guy. So I take a seat, and they call Colonel Collins. I like that name. Oh, that was such a good name. Colonel Collins. Yes, I like it. And so I went in, and the person said, "Well, we have a representative from Air Force personnel that's going to come in and brief you on where you are now and what they recommend for you in the future." Okay, in a minute, the door opens. How many of you have ever heard of Pappy Boyington? Medal of Honor winner in World War II. I had his son at the Air Force Academy. And I found him in the chapel doing something he shouldn't have been doing. And I put him on the quadrangle for about 180 tours. And then I left. The door opens in Montgomery and in walks Major Boynton. He's my personnel officer. I said, "Oh, hell." I said, "Boynton, forget the past. We got to go on today." He said, "Colonel, you're an 800-pound gorilla. What do you want to do?" So we discussed it, and we decided that I probably should get back in the fighter business, because that's where my reputation was, and that's where my business acumen for that particular assignment was. So we said the best thing to do is to go to the National War College. You'll get a brigadier general assignment out of that, and then you can go on from there. Man, that sounded good to me. So that's what we set out to do. Then I left Montgomery and I went to Atlanta, where my mom and sis were living. My dad had died while I was in prison. And that was a big disappointment to me. But Sam Nunn, who was a junior senator from Georgia at that time, fantastic guy. In my opinion, Sam Nunn should have been president of the United States of America. But his party went off and left him. Unbelievable. But at any rate, he met me at the airport in Atlanta. My sister and mother picked me up, and we went back to their place, and my life began to sort of unravel. And then I met somebody named Catherine. Honey, you got anything you want to say? Now, this is a surprise deal. You didn't know this was going to happen. In fact, I didn't either. But I'd like to have, and I'm sure they would like to hear from you as to what you found was going on.
I will not take but maybe 3 minutes. But I do have some kind of fun things to say. I met Quincy on December the 20th, 1979. And I really didn't know anything about him. A friend, a mutual friend, wanted to introduce us. And she said, please, balding. He's a former prisoner of war. But he has bright blue eyes. Okay. Sounds good to me. Well, I have a theory that relationships have a better chance of lasting long term if people have a lot in common. So I found out really almost the first night that I met Quincy that we had a lot in common. And I'm going to tell you about 5 things that helped me to get to know Quincy and really to fall in love with him. Number 1, when Quincy first moved to Charlotte, he lived across the street from my parents on Queens Road. That was just amazing to me that he knew my parents before he knew me. Number 2, our aunts and uncles lived on the same street in the little town of Albemarle, North Carolina. And I went past his aunt's house many times going to visit my aunt. And guess who lived right behind my aunt and uncle? Bill Grigg. You met Bill here at the Cypress. I didn't find that out recently. Number 3, my youngest daughter's middle name is Quincy. So when Quincy came to take me out on the first date, she answers the door. I'm Adelaide Quincy Scott. Quincy has said many times, that's when the trouble started. Number 4, Quincy's father owned a furniture store in this little town of Albemarle, which is my mother's hometown and my grandmother's home. Now this is a killer. Number 5. Very soon after I met Quincy, I found out that our former spouses had met each other and had started dating. And you can imagine what my mother said. How tacky. But fortunately, their relationship didn't last, but ours did. And so we have been married almost 39 years.
Well, I don't think I have to add anything else to that. Are we way over? Let me try to bring this to a close. If you've got to go, you're about to die, serious, go ahead and get that over with. I hope that you have enjoyed being exposed to my life and the events that have christened me on my voyages around God's green earth. I can say with great certainty that my tour guide has made it interesting, challenging, and exciting in every way possible. I think that as a human being, my Maker has thrown me just about every pothole He has created in His road of life. For that, I am so very thankful, because it has drawn me so much closer to knowing what His will is for my life. I firmly believe that a smooth sailing life does not make one a better Christian, nor does it prepare one for the big test that life uses to evaluate one's personal performance on this planet. Even with all the stress and strains that have come my way, God has provided me the strength and the will to overcome all the adversity that I've had to endure. And how can I forget my many friends who have made my life worth living? My loving wife, Kathy, and her wonderful daughters, and all 12 of my grandchildren. My sister Carolyn, who has had to endure the task of caring for our parents before her own death. Not an enjoyable task, to say the least. And my 3 sons, who grew up in spite of my being absent during their formative years. Of all the places I have lived, Concord, North Carolina has had the most positive impact on me. In my youth, the Baptist Church in Concord showed me the way. Then Ridgecrest, the Southern Baptist Training Center in the mountains of North Carolina, made life a lot clearer to me. But the one person who has made me into what I am today, is my beautiful wife, Kathy. She is the essence of love and has taught me the true meaning of the word. I will love her forever and seek her counsel at every turn. When you've lived for 87 years and begin to think about who you want to mention in your book of life, you discover there's not enough paper printing to do that. Yes, there are many, many people who have loved me. I love them and will never forget them. Events of my early youth, Citadel memories, Air Force experiences, POW trials and tribulations, and adjusting to life in prison. These have all become a part of me and are, at this very moment, shaping the rest of my life. I can hardly wait to see what happens next. Perhaps there will be more, a lot more. You can never tell what will come out of the blue, which is the name of my book. If you have any questions, you can either ask them here or let everybody leave and you come up here and ask me and I will take your questions. Everybody's been asleep. Oh my gracious. No, we don't have time for video. I have here a video of President Nixon's dinner at the White House for us POWs, to include the singing of the hymn I wrote, POW hymn, and some interesting things, but I don't want to infringe on where you are and what you've got to do. How long do you do this? How long?
It's like 10 minutes.
You have to leave. Adios. Good seeing you again. The rest of you can enjoy this video.
McCoffrey Mechanic in Vietnam. And an opportunity for them to chat with the president tonight during the meal. Then before the meal, there are a number of things planned, including the chorus by the POW choir. There also will be a special prayer offered by the POW chaplain, a gentleman who is not an ordained minister, but in the prison camps of North Vietnam, no one asked for his credentials. Now we will have rumbles and flourishes, followed by hails to chief as President and Mrs. Nixon arrive, along with Vice President Agnew. All the other guests are at their tables and in their places when they arrive now on the first round.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and Mrs. Nixon, the Vice President of the United States and Mrs. Agnew.
As all of you know, this is the largest dinner ever held at the White House. And that in itself would make it important.
This is really great.
I think you should also know that in this great house, the most distinguished men and women of the world have been entertained. Emperors, kings, and presidents, and leaders from virtually every nation of the world have been honored here. And of course, they have honored this house by being here. But I know that I speak for all of the American people when I say that never has the White House been more proud than it is tonight because of the guests we have tonight. And our program will begin with an invocation by, I understand, the honorary chaplain, Chaplain Gillespie. I incidentally was wondering whether we had picked the right chaplain when we selected him. I was just hoping we could have gotten that one that Patton had that worked out the business so we had that clear day during the Battle of the Wall. But since we can't get him, the honorary chaplain of the POW, Captain Hanoi, Captain Gillespie will give the invocation, and then the chorus, the POW chorus, will sing the POW hymn, which was composed in the camp, and they, I understand, will come up here on the stage and sing it. So, Mr. Gillespie first.
Let us pray. O Lord, we thank Thee for the many blessings that Thou hast given to us. We thank Thee for the faith and the hope, the strength and the courage that Thou hast given to us and to our families during the long years of our separation. We thank Thee for our release and for our return and our reunion with our families and loved ones. And we thank Thee especially tonight for this warm fellowship which we share with one another, with so many who have been so instrumental in our return, and with our President and his family. We thank Thee for the many thoughts and the prayers, and for the many expressions of interest and concern which we have received from so many. Surely, Lord, Thou hast been merciful and gracious to us, and we thank Thee. We ask Thy blessings, Lord, upon our President and upon the other leaders of our country, that Thou would grant to them the wisdom, the faith, the strength, and the courage to lead our country safely and surely through these troubled and critical times. We pray that Thou would grant to us and to our fellow Americans the faith, the loyalty, the strength, and the courage to support them in their leadership. And we ask Thy blessings upon our country and our people, that Thou will continue to guide us and help us to find strength and freedom always. Lord, we ask Thy blessings also upon the families and the loved ones of the missing in action and the killed in action, that Thou would comfort them and strengthen them and help them to endure whatever sorrow, hardship, and disappointments they may experience. O Lord, as Thou hast been with us during the time of our adversity, I pray that Thou will continue to be with us during this time of our prosperity. And even as Thou hast not forsaken us during the years of our imprisonment, I pray that we will not forsake Thee during these years of our freedom. Let us live our lives so that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts will always be acceptable in Thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.
Gentlemen, come forward, please. Now we will have a special tune by the POW Chorus. 35 prisoners who formed together while in captivity to sing to the other prisoners, to pass on the liturgy.
in the men's room at the Stacker this afternoon.
There's special privileges that any words
I
tonight
think
anyhow.
I'm looking for the music. But I hid it so well, they couldn't find it.
Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Quincy Collins of Atlanta, Georgia, who is director of the Field Levy Courts. For example, a normal flag that